There's a date that keeps echoing in the hearts of those who can still feel what's coming. Friday, October 31st, 2025. It's not fear that makes this date powerful. It's the quiet conviction that something sacred is shifting. You can sense it in the air, in the chaos, in the exhaustion of men who are pretending to be fine while their souls are running on empty. Maybe you felt it too. That strange restlessness that won't leave. Like God is trying to tell you something, but the world is too loud for you to hear it. And He's saying, keep this ready. Not your money, not your plans, your spirit, your heart. Because when the shaking comes, and it always does, the only thing that will keep you standing is what's inside you. This isn't about prediction. It's about preparation, about aligning your life before it's too late. Because sometimes God doesn't give you dates to scare you. He gives them to wake you up. So if you've been drifting, this is your call back. If you've been doubting, this is your confirmation. God isn't asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to be ready. You know, God doesn't always send earthquakes when He wants to get your attention. Sometimes He just sends silence. That's the hardest thing to understand because we live in a world that's addicted to noise. We expect divine messages to be loud, dramatic, undeniable. But God doesn't always shout. More often than not, He whispers. And that whisper, it usually comes in the middle of your frustration, your loneliness, or those nights when you can't sleep and you don't even know why. The whisper before the storm isn't there to scare you. It's there to prepare you. Maybe that's what this date means. Maybe Friday, October 31st, 2025 isn't about fear, but about focus. It's not about what's going to happen in the world. It's about what's already happening in you. Maybe you've been feeling that tug in your chest, that uneasy pull that says something has to change. That's not anxiety. That's awakening. That's God saying, I'm about to move. But before I do, I need you ready. Because the truth is, most of us don't hear God because we're drowning in distraction. We wake up with a phone in our hand and fall asleep to the sound of someone else's opinions. And in between, we lose ourselves. We mistake motion for progress. We confuse being busy with being purposeful. And all the while, that still, quiet voice is saying, slow down, listen. When you ignore that voice, life starts whispering louder through disappointment, through loss, through things that stop working no matter how hard you push. You think it's bad luck, but it's actually grace. It's God gently dismantling what's fake so you can rebuild on what's real. The whisper before the storm isn't punishment, it's preparation. And maybe this message is coming to you right now, because He's been trying to reach you for a long time. Maybe this is your warning, your sign, your final reminder before the next season unfolds. Whatever's coming on October 31st or any day beyond that, it's not about fear, it's about faith. It's about being anchored enough to face whatever happens without breaking. So I'll say this, when the world feels heavy, when the noise gets too loud, when everyone's chasing everything but truth, pause. Turn down the volume, because God is still whispering. And if you can learn to listen now, really listen, you'll be ready for whatever comes next. Not because you knew the storm was coming, but because you knew the one who calms it. You see, the whisper is where everything begins. It's not the chaos, not the noise. It's that still, small moment when God reaches into your heart and says, I'm still here. And the crazy thing is, most people miss it. They think God only moves through miracles, through signs, through fire and thunder. But what if His loudest message was wrapped in the quietest moment? You know that feeling when something in your life starts to fall apart, the relationship that suddenly feels empty, the job that no longer fulfills you, the habits that used to numb you but don't work anymore. That's not random. That's the whisper before the storm. It's God rearranging your foundation before the world shakes. It's Him saying, you've built your peace on something that was never strong enough to hold it. And that whisper isn't just for your comfort. It's an invitation to stop running, to stop pretending you're okay when you're not, to stop calling exhaustion ambition and emptiness confidence. Because when you finally slow down, you realize the storm isn't punishment, it's purification. God doesn't destroy what's real, He removes what's fake so the real can breathe again. Some of you listening right now have been asking for a sign, a breakthrough, a miracle, but maybe the sign already came. Maybe the delay, the silence, the heartbreak was the message. God has been whispering through the closed doors, the unanswered prayers, the sleepless nights. You just haven't been quiet enough to hear Him. And I get it, silence is scary. When you stop, you have to face yourself. You have to confront the parts of you that don't align with who God says you are. But that's where transformation begins. That's where He takes your broken pieces and starts building something holy out of them. So when you feel that whisper, that strange restlessness that doesn't go away, don't drown it out. Don't scroll it away. Don't drink it away. Sit in it. Ask what it's trying to tell you. Because the whisper always comes before the storm. And if you learn to recognize His voice now, when everything's still calm, you won't crumble when the winds rise. You'll stand firm because you'll know the storm isn't against you. It's sent to prepare you. And here's what most people don't realize. When God whispers, He's not asking for your panic. He's asking for your presence. He's saying, I'm not warning you to scare you. I'm preparing you so you won't be shaken. Because the truth is, life is going to test everything you've built. Your faith, your patience, your character. They're all going to be stretched. And when that moment comes, what will matter isn't what you own or who you impress. What will matter is who you've become in the quiet. The whisper is God's way of saying, fix what you can before the storm fixes it for you. You can feel it, that inner tug that something in your life is off. Maybe it's your priorities. Maybe it's the people you're surrounding yourself with. Maybe it's the secret things you keep hoping no one will ever find out. That discomfort you feel, it's not punishment, it's grace disguised as conviction. Because before the storm comes, God always sends a warning, a soft one, a loving one. He'll start nudging you to let go of what doesn't serve you, to stop pretending you're okay, to prepare your spirit before the shaking starts. And if you ignore it, life has a way of amplifying it until you can't anymore. But when you listen, when you stop chasing noise and sit in the quiet long enough, something shifts. You begin to hear yourself again. You begin to hear Him again. That's when alignment begins. That's when you realize that God isn't just trying to protect you from the storm. He's trying to grow you through it. October 31, 2025. Maybe it's a date, maybe it's just a marker. But what if it's a divine reminder that time is short? That you can't keep living halfway awake, halfway obedient, halfway faithful. What if it's God's gentle way of saying, keep this ready, your heart, your purpose, your faith, because what's coming will require all of it. You don't need to be afraid. You just need to be aware. You just need to make sure that when the storm comes, and it will, you're not scrambling for faith you could have been building today. Because the whisper before the storm isn't about surviving it. It's about becoming unshakable in the middle of it, and that's the thing. Storms don't give you warnings that make sense until afterward. You only realize why God whispered after the thunder hits. You look back and think, that's why He told me to slow down. That's why that door closed. That's why that relationship ended. Because the whisper was the warning, the grace before the chaos. We often pray for blessings, but we forget that preparation is the greatest blessing of all. God doesn't prepare you for nothing. If He's been whispering to you lately, if you've been feeling uneasy for no reason, if your peace feels fragile and you can't explain why, That's not anxiety, that's anticipation. Heaven is setting something in motion, and God wants you awake for it. So don't run from the silence. Don't distract yourself with the next dopamine hit. Sit still long enough to hear what the silence is saying. Because silence speaks volumes when you stop fearing it. That quiet space between your thoughts, that's where the divine downloads happen. That's where clarity is born. Maybe this message, keep this ready by October 31, 2025, isn't about panic, but about positioning. God is not saying, be afraid of what's coming. He's saying, be found faithful when it comes. He's not asking you to predict the storm. He's asking you to protect your spirit. And listen, if you've been through heartbreak lately, if you've been losing friends, losing focus, losing the version of yourself you thought you needed to be, that's not destruction. That's pruning. God cuts away what no longer bears fruit, so that when the wind comes, you don't break. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Every delay, every detour, every lonely night, it's Him shaping you for something heavier, something holier. Because when that date arrives, whether it's a literal moment or a spiritual shift, you'll recognize it, not because you'll see the storm, but because you'll feel the peace. You'll know you're ready because you listened when He whispered. You kept your faith sharp. You kept your soul anchored. And while the world will panic, you'll stand still, not shaken, not afraid, but grounded. Because those who learn to hear God in the whisper never fear Him in the storm. And here's the truth. Most people never even notice it happening. They think they're making their own choices. They think they're following their dreams. But in reality, they're reacting to the noise, to what other people think, to what society tells them to do, to what gets applause instead of what gives peace. The deception isn't always loud. It's subtle. It's a whisper that tells you you're fine. Everyone else is doing it. Don't think too much. And before you realize it, you've stopped questioning, you've stopped feeling, and you've started existing like everyone else, comfortably numb. We live in a world where deception wears the mask of inspiration. You'll see people selling success and purpose, but underneath there's no soul. It's just marketing. It's a performance. And we buy into it because it's easier to copy than to confront. Easier to mimic purpose than to actually face our emptiness and find meaning. That's how deception enters the heart, not through hate, but through comfort. Through the illusion that we're okay when we're spiritually starving. And the reason this is dangerous is because the moment you stop searching for truth, you become easy to control. You become predictable. You start chasing things that don't even matter because you're afraid to slow down and listen to what's really going on inside of you. You see, the devil doesn't need to destroy you outright. He just needs to distract you long enough that you destroy yourself. So when you look around today and feel confused by what's real, that's not just you. That's the atmosphere of deception that's been building for years. It's in the media. It's in the music. It's even in the things that look good. And unless you develop the courage to pause, to ask, to listen to that small voice inside that still knows right from wrong, you'll keep falling for the same traps dressed in new colors. Mel Robbins would say, this is the moment you wake up. You stop scrolling. You stop absorbing. You look yourself in the mirror and say, what do I actually believe? Because the minute you start thinking for yourself again, the minute you stop running from your inner truth, that's when the deception loses its power. That's when you start hearing something different. Not the devil's song, but your own heartbeat calling you back home. Before we end this, stop scrolling for just a second and really breathe. This isn't just another video. This is a call, a wake up, a truth that refuses to be ignored. If something in this message landed in your soul, if you felt that tug deep inside, that's God's whisper to you. Don't silence it again. Because here's the raw truth: the world doesn't want you awake. It wants you distracted, comfortable, asleep. But your soul wasn't made for comfort. It was made for clarity, for courage, for purpose. And when you begin to hear that voice, the still, small whisper before the storm, your life changes forever. So I'm asking you to commit right now, commit to being ready, not just for October 31st, not just for some distant moment, but for today. Start building your faith. Start clearing your heart. Start aligning your life with truth. If this message touched you, here's what I want you to do. A comment below. Tell me what your whisper is saying right now. What truth are you ready to face? Like this video if you're done living distracted and are ready to live awake. Share this message with someone who needs to hear this wake up call. And subscribe, because this channel isn't about trends. It's about transformation. It's about truth. Remember, the storm is coming for everyone, but not everyone will be ready. Choose today to be different. Choose today to stand, because the difference between fear and faith is preparation, and faith is what keeps you unshaken when the storm arrives. Your moment is now. Keep this ready.